Dale, tell us how you became interested in music.
You know, I heard Earl Scruggs play banjo when I was, I was about 11 years old, I think, and that got me into bluegrass music because he was the very first three-fingered roll banjo player, and he got a job with Bill Monroe when he was about 19 and played the Grand Ole Opry. And when I heard him play, that's what I got interested in, and so I played banjo for about 10 years, and then I started playing guitar and singing lead with Bill Monroe. So he was the one that got me into, my brother taught me to play guitar years ago, but he was the one that got me into professional music, I'd say, you know.
So, and then that kind of led you to pursue a career in music, or when did you kind of determine, you know, now I'm gonna pursue a career in music, I'm gonna make this a career?
Well, I was, you know, I can always remember being that way. I remember way back when I first got out of high school, you know, I started playing in bands then, which was 1956. And then about 1963, I started working for Bill Monroe. Of course, then I was in the big time, whether I wanted to be or not. And he was on a major recording label. He was on Decca Records then, and had been on the Grand Ole Opry since 1939. And so he was an established artist, you know, and we travel all over the place. So that was my first chance to go really big time, you know, I'd say.
Very cool. So then how did your sons become interested in music?
Well, you know, I had instruments around the house all the time.
Sure.
And naturally, you know how kids are, they'll pick up instruments and try to play them. And so I never did urge them to play. I never did. They just took it up on their own, and I would kind of guide them, you know, once they got started. But they also were into sports, you know, but music was their big thing, I found out a little bit later. And so by the time Ronnie was 14, I was playing with a four-piece band at the time. And I didn't have a mandolin player because I didn't need one. So Ronnie, he went with me the first summer, I was playing bluegrass festivals. And he played rhythm on the mandolin, you know. And then while he was there that summer, he learned all these melodies from people that were in the band, you know, and of course I'd help him too, you know. And it was the same with Rob a little bit later on. Of course, Rob started on bass. He was a great bass player. But he started playing banjo when he was 9. And so when my banjo player quit, I said, now you're gonna have to play banjo now, because he was good, you know. But he dreaded that because he was comfortable playing bass. And so he started playing the banjo then, and he's been doing that ever since, you know.
Wow. So does it feel special to be performing with your sons? It
feels special to be playing with those guys, you know. They're such great musicians, you know, and they've won awards, and of course, you know, I taught them things in the beginning, but I don't take credit for what they know because they got most of it on their own, you know. Rob, he listened to Earl Scruggs to get the basic things that you have to play banjo, you know. Of course, Ronnie, he listened to Bill Monroe, you know, and the first time he went with me on a show, I played in Lincoln Center, New York City, and Bill Monroe was on the show. This is after I got my own band, you know. And so Bill Monroe took a liking to Ronnie because he was only 14, I think, and he put his mandolin in his lap, and he said, now you play me something. You know, he talked real fast, Monroe did. And I think it got him interested, you know.
Sure.
And he was playing violin in school, but he kind of got interested in the mandolin, and ever since then he just played mandolin, you know.
Wow. So now when you're writing your music and your lyrics, or even the notes of your songs themselves, you know, where do you draw inspiration from, or what do you?
Well, you know, it's hard to say where, you know. A thought might hit me about a line, and I'll write a song around that, or a melody. A lot of times a melody hits me before actually the story, or and it's untelling. A lot of times it's fictional, and sometimes it's things, you know, that I've lived through, you know.
Sure.
But most of the time it's just an idea, you know, that comes up. And I wrote some with there's a great song with a whole bunch of great songwriters in Nashville, And this one's name's Harley Allen, and so I went to him one day to write with him. You know, we do a lot of writing together these days. And he said, "You got any ideas for a song?" And I said, "No." I had paper in front of me. I said, "Mine's as blank as that piece of paper right there." And so he reached back behind him in a drawer and he pulled out a piece of paper with something on it. I didn't see it, but it was the start of a song. And you know, those songwriters, they'll get this thing in their head. They'll write a line down, and then in later months or years, they'll go to that line and they'll write something about that. You know.
That's great.
And so we wrote a song that I recorded then. I recorded a couple that I wrote with him, you know. But it just comes different ways, you know.
Sure.
It does.
Sure. Do you have a favorite song that you've written?
Not a one.
Yeah.
I just, you know, I like variety in songs, and that's kind of the way I don't have a favorite song. Now we have a most requested song.
Sure,
I'll
sure.
say that, and it's the 1952 Vincent Black Lightning, you know. And when I recorded it, I never thought it would be as popular with the fans as it is, you know. But
Wow.
it's just one of those songs. It hits people, you know.
Yeah.
It's a story about a motorcycle, black leather, red-headed girl, you know. That's pretty good.
That's a good story right there.
Pretty good to start with, eh?
Can't go wrong with those things.
Murder's in there, love and murder, and so you got to have all those elements in a song.
That's great. That's great. So, where are you off to next after tonight's show?
Oh gosh, we go to. I fly back home, Nashville, and I don't know where I go this week. I really don't. I know we're busy. I've got my own shows that I'm doing with my boys, you know, with my regular band, and then I have shows that I do with the Preservation Hall Jazz Band from New Orleans. A lot of dates with those guys, and then this fall I'm doing. I don't know if you ever heard of Sam Bush. He's a great mandolin player, and he's like a session guy there in Nashville, and he was one of the founders of the Newgrass Revival back in the '60s. And so he and I are just going to go out, the two of us, and do some shows with guitar and mandolin, sing. He plays fiddle, and anyway, and we know we're going to do a lot of things. We'll tell stories about the old guys because we both knew everybody from Bill Monroe on up. You know,
Sure.
we knew all those guys,
That sounds incredible.
and worked with them. So, and you know, a lot of the young people don't know anything about the old guys that actually invented the music. You know, back in, so they invented it on the Grand Ole Opry stage in 1945. That's how old the music is. So anyway, we're doing that. Then we're doing a Masters thing with Bobby Osborne. I am. That's me and Bobby Osborne and J.D. Crowe, who's retiring now. And Bobby Hicks, who's a great fiddler. He recorded all that great instrumental stuff with Bill Monroe in the 50s, you know. And my brother Jerry's going to play bass. He's a great rockabilly bass player, you know. He's working a day job now, but we're going to get him to go out on the road for a while, you know. But the boys, they have their own band called the Traveling McCourys, and they travel all over the place. And they'll get a good guitar picker to go with them to do that. And then they also recorded an album with Keller Williams from back east there. And their album came in the jam band charts at #1. And that was the first month. Now it's the second month and it's still #1.
That's great.
So it's a great record, you know?
Absolutely. Well, where can your fans find some more information about where you're performing next?
That's a good question. I've got, my wife could tell you all that. I don't fool with all that stuff, you know. But we have, I guess it's DaleMcCouryBand.com.
Okay.
And it tells, you know, we got all the history of everybody and where we're playing, and I know we're really busy. And the IBMA's coming up soon, the International Bluegrass Music Association. We have our award show, you know, on the 1st of October, and I'm supposed to host it this year, so.
That's quite an honor.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And they put me in the Hall of Fame last year, so I'm really proud of that, you know.
Absolutely.
I really am.
Well, Del, thank you very much for giving us a few minutes.
Yes, sir.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Have a great show tonight.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.